You get your balls to the wall, man. Alright, let's talk about metal, early metal this time. This band released their first album in 1979. They come from Germany. Their music and style could be described as a cross between AC/DC and Judas Priest. Sometimes they're hard rocking and sometimes it's pure metal. Um, Arguably even borderline extreme metal at times. Also, the singer is legendary. He has this raspy voice that could peel the paints off the wall. I'm of course talking about Accept. This is their first album, and oh my god, even the cover artwork says it all. That has to be the longest chainsaw I've ever seen. And with that depressing looking grey city in the background, that's just, perfect. This coming from a band that has a lot of passion, doesn't have all the necessary skills maybe yet, but they have all the passion. They really go for it. There's the attitude is the hell driver and street fighter and all that stuff. On Glad to Be Alone, they basically say, you are all assholes and I'm really happy to just be on my own. And they just really directly, almost comically directly say all these things. So that's perfect for an early metal album like this. Also, that final shout on "That's Rock and Roll" is totally out of key. It sounds hideous, and that's why I love it so much. It cracks me up every time. I just start laughing like an idiot when I hear that. That's rock and roll. And the final shout with all of those, it's hideous sounding. The second album, I'm a Rebel, I don't have that one. It has some cool tracks like Thunder and Lightning, and I guess Save Us, that's a catchy one. But it has this disco influence happening there, and I'm not a huge fan of that. However, the third album, Breaker, this one I really love. I think this is the best Accept album I've heard. The only complaint I have of this one is maybe Can't Stand the Night isn't that great. Yeah, to be honest. And maybe the B-side kind of slightly fizzles out at the end. But you got so many cool tracks here like Starlight, Breaker, Run If You Can, Son of a Bitch, Cocksucking Motherfucker, I Was Right, Fight. I mean, where do you get lyrics like that? It's insane. And then you get some AC/DC rocking with Burning. Oh my god, what a great album. This one, another classic. The best stuff is really amazing on Restless and Wild. You get Fast as a Shark, which is like pretty much like thrash metal, I would argue. Restless and Wild is this really nice, heavy song following it. Ahead of the Back, Shake Your Heads, then it kind of drops down a bit for me. It starts this like more meandering, kind of grooving, slower songs in the midsection. Flash Rocking Man, however, is a really cool one. And of course, there's Princess of the Dawn, which is a classic tune in its own right. Not my personal favorite, but still a very must listen to fans of metal. And if you had like these guitars at the back cover of Breaker, now you have these Burning guitars here. So I also like how they gradually moved on from one image to the next. Then they finally made it big with, let's see, Balls to the Wall, I think, yeah. And here you have it. This was the big one, and the title track, it's still a classic. I've heard it a million times, but I haven't grown tired of it yet. Fight It Back is a cool one. I like Losing More Than You've Ever Had. Losers and Winners, London Leather Boys, lots of cool stuff. Perhaps it's kind of getting a bit more mainstream, so some of the edgiest stuff is starting to wane off a bit. So, you know, and maybe not quite as good and metal album, but certainly, you know, the production value is getting better, and I can understand that in the 80s that would have been a really cool album that would have excited lots of metal fans and maybe some other people as well. It's quite well produced. Here's Metal Heart, the follow up to that one. It's a really cool album as well. A bit uneven, maybe. I'm not a huge fan of the A side. The title track Metal Heart is really cool, but on the B side you get songs like Teach Us to Survive, which is basically like a jazz song, but played in the style of metal. So I think that's clever and surprising. It's really one of my favorite tracks of this album. And then you get the typical really slow, heavy nightmare-like tracks like Dogs on Leads. And how about that closing track, Bound to Fail? That's so epic. And you know, that nice attitude that they have in the lyrics and all that. And they're infusing some of the classic music influences in there as well. Here's a live album, Staying Alive. I think this is from... Is this from Metal Heart Tour? Yeah, I think it is. So it nicely sums it up. It's the double CD version. So you get lots of really cool tracks here. Maybe not every single track that you love, but still lots of great stuff. And it's live, and what can you ask for more? I think this one is also from 1985, Osaka. Yeah, they're playing Metal Heart here, and also their older stuff. There are some video clips here, all the way up to the 90s. Pretty much all the Udo Dirk Schneider stuff should be here. There's a live clip from 93. And then if you switch the DVD around, on the other side there's a CD which has some of these rare demos and early versions and other songs, you know, that you haven't found on the album. So this is a pretty cool one, and nowadays, you know, it's not too expensive to get Accept stuff. So if you really like that 80s classic heavy metal stuff, but with a rough edge, maybe a bit of that rooty hard rock and boogie and good old rock and roll thrown in the mix, then I would urge you to get this stuff. It's really enjoyable and fun, and if you don't take it too seriously, you're gonna enjoy it. There's lots of German weird macho humor in everything they do on those early stuff. Certainly. I've also heard that some of the newer albums are really cool, so definitely if you really get excited about Accept, you should probably listen to what they do nowadays. And also, of course, some newer Udo albums might be really cool. Okay, that's about it. I'm just gonna say, shake your heads till your necks are breaking.